It's been a great weekend so far, and we have the best yet to come, actually. We have Marta Kristen from Lost in Space, who will be here shortly, and then we have Captain Robert Salas, and we have Travis Walton. So the rest of the day is jam-packed and fantastic. Back in the 60s, in our collective consciousness as a nation, there were certain TV shows that just stood out. And as it turned out, shows like Lost in Space and Star Trek influenced a generation of scientists, engineers, computer programmers. You know, there were these folks who were inspired by the vision of a show like Lost in Space. And as I mentioned earlier, Lost in Space actually had better ratings during its 3-year run than Star Trek, the original series. So as a kid, we would all race to our TV sets and watch every episode of Lost in Space. Nowadays, there are like thousands of TV shows on millions of channels, and kids don't have this experience of where they'll watch a single show and then the next day at school they will talk about it because, you know, which of a million shows did they watch last night? So we're extremely happy to have Marta Kristen, who played Judy Robinson in the series, here today. Let's give her a big hand of applause as she brings us back to Lost in Space.
Thank you so much. Put this on for the camera. Yes. There we go. Fantastic. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Noe Torres for inviting me to this wonderful event. I love coming to meet all of you and to this wonderful city, and I really appreciate your interest, and I'm always thrilled to meet you. Oh. and to talk with you and share different stories about Lost in Space and about our own memories of what we were doing at that time when we were kids. And I like to hear about your stories of your families and how you, after the show, would play with your friends or your family and actually play Lost in Space. And I want to thank Monty Earwood, who did these amazing. I mean, this is so wonderful. This is Jupiter 2, and so many of the other props that he brought. And he actually picked me up in San Antonio and Robert Schroeder and brought us here. So that was a lovely thing for him to do. I guess what we're going to do is we're going to start watching some of the clips from the show, and Noe has put that together.
Okay, let's start with the intro here.
All right. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, well, we'll go on.
Oh my God, putting my weight down. But that was a long time ago.
Let me see. What...
Nope.
Sorry.
Nope. There are gremlins around here somewhere, but you know, we'll talk a little bit about the show. When I was invited to do the show, I was doing all the shows on television as the ingenue, quote unquote. And I said, oh no, science fiction, oh no. Even though I love science fiction, Isaac Asimov was my favorite writer at the time, and Ray Bradbury. And I said, you know, I'm really going to get lost with all the, you know, the whole group, and you know, I don't know whether I should. And Irwin Allen called me every day for 2 weeks. He said, Marta, he said, are you going to do the show? And I finally said, okay, Irwin, I will, as long as you have some storylines that are interesting and you know, and centered on Judy and you know, I was pretty ballsy at the time because a young person who really was just sort of starting in the business, asking for that. Oh, he's going to start the first clip. I'll tell you more later.
I'll say that.
I bring them deutronium.
Oh? That looks like just about all there is. And you were about to give it to your flowering chums, right? I wonder if that's such a good idea. You see, my dear, if you give away all the deutronium, the Robinsons will wonder where it went. And I shall be forced to tell them. And you wouldn't get any more, would you? Oh, wait a minute, wait. Let me explain. If you were to give me just enough for Major West and I to take off in the spaceship, we would leave the Robinsons behind.
How would that help us?
Think, my dear, think. They would be here to make all the new deutronium you want. You would be giving away just a little bit now, but look at it as an investment in the future.
True enough. All right. It is agreed. Is this enough?
That should do nicely. Have a pleasant stroll, my dear. I'm off to bed. Good night.
Fun. I haven't seen that in a while. Jonathan was so wonderful to work with. You can see how he gave so much as an actor. That was the first time really on the show that I was able to be the bad Judy. Everyone sort of had that opportunity during the show to be a duplicate. And it's always fun. A priest friend of mine said to me, do you like to be a good girl or do you like to be bad? And I said, oh, bad is much more interesting. And it is. It's just more challenging to try and, be as mysterious and as dark as you can, and it's really more character acting than than anything that I had done before on the show, and it was very enjoyable. One of the things I noticed it wasn't shown on this clip, but there's one part where I first sink into the plant when I become the duplicate, and I had been a dancer, and so I thought it was so balletic. I just sort of, you know, just very gently and I, you know, in retrospect, gracefully, you know, sort of embraced, went into the planet and was embraced by it, and I thought that was so very beautiful, and I didn't have, as I said, many opportunities to do things like that on the show, so I enjoy watching the show now. At that time, it was hard for me to watch the show because I didn't like to watch myself act, and but now I say, oh my goodness, yeah, that was nice. I really liked that. So I guess we have more clips. No?
Enough! Miss Galaxy, where are you? It's not working! Summon her.
Judy, my child, are you all right?
Stars and garters, my foot.
Oh, what a terrible experience. I'm happy that's over with.
Oh, I'm so glad you girls have forgiven me. I was possessed, simply possessed.
You're all set, Mr. Farnham. Your spaceship's repaired and ready for takeoff.
Oh, thank you, my boy.
Don, I promise I will never be in another beauty pageant as long as I live.
And do you really promise?
Well, you know, it was sort of fun having you come to my rescue like that.
I know what you mean, Judy. Sometimes it's just nice to be noticed for a change. You know, the boss has even forgiven me for selling his soul.
What are you talking about? I just don't want to lose a good agent, that's all. Besides, it's time to start work on our next show. Goodbye, everyone. No rest for the wicked, you know.
Well, that was colorful. Leonard Stone was probably the only other actor in this in the show as a guest star that could out-act Jonathan. He was very, very big, and watching Jonathan and Leonard Stone work together was like watching a duel of sorts. They were trying to figure out who could top each other. It was really quite something. That was one of the things about Lost in Space that was so wonderful, was that we had the best character actors in Hollywood come on our show. Irwin, I think that was Irwin's voice with the fire, the night with the fire. Because he said hand. It was very, I'm pretty sure that was Irwin Allen's voice. But this was a lovely piece for me. I remember walking, they had, you know, the, like snow coming down, or there were ashes, and one burned my eye. And I just, you know, I felt it, and you probably saw me blink, and it was burning like crazy. I had to go to the doctor afterwards, but I did it anyway, just, you know, the show must go on kind of thing. But it was so lovely at the very end, where there's that flirtation between Major Weston and Judy, that, you know, we rarely had that opportunity. Everyone always asks us, why didn't you and Mark get married? Why didn't you and Major West get married? And it was because the network, CBS, wrote to Irwin Allen and said, no touching, no kissing, no, not even between mom and dad, nothing. You know, but once in a while we would sneak in a look, you know, longing look, or, you know, touch each other's hand. And so, you know, obviously everyone wanted to see a romance between us, but it didn't happen on the show. I think eventually it would have. If you have the Blu-ray the Blu-ray that's just come out, we have a table reading of a script that Bill wrote 35 years ago, and Mark and I actually, Major Weston and Judy actually get together, and we have a child, and we do this table read. It's really very lovely. And I hope you can see it, because it's fun to see everyone. I mean, obviously, well, June couldn't do it. She was ill. So Angela Cartwright's sister, Veronica, played my mother. I said, how do you like playing my mother, Veronica? And then we had Guy Williams' son play Guy's part. And Guy Williams' daughter was also in it, playing the romantic interest with Will. And so Kevin Burns does Jonathan, and he's spectacular as Jonathan. You know, he's the one who produces Ancient Aliens, and he loves Lost in Space, and The Munsters. Those are his favorite shows. But yeah, this was a fun show for me to do. I got dressed, and I love the hair, don't you? I mean, it's sort of, that style is sort of coming back, right, ladies? Teased up and all kinds of stuff. But you know, again, it's fun to watch how colorful and beautiful the show looks. The costumes were done by a man named Paul Zestupnovich, Paul Z, we called him. And he did all of the wonderful colors, and I don't know who designed the Jupiter 2, and I don't know who designed the Chariot. Of course, Robert Kinoshita designed the robot. He just recently passed away. I think he was like 100 years old, and literally. But the design on the show was, I think, really, really interesting. And the technology, even though it was very limited at that time compared to now, I thought it was pretty good. And the kids certainly liked it and believed it. And the adults, I think, who watched with the children smiled, had a nice little smile about it. The second and third years reminded me a little bit of like a comic strip. I mean, we had the colors, And then, you know, when Batman came on, we felt like we had to compete with Batman, and so it became, you know, relatively campy. And Jonathan was very smart, because Jonathan rewrote most of his lines during, you know, when we'd receive the scripts. He'd cross everything out, and then he'd rewrite his own lines. And he wrote the wonderful alliterations that a bubble-headed booby and you know, multi alliterations that were in the show. And he taught me one thing very, very important. If you want the camera to end on you in a scene, write the last line. And I have to tell you, Jonathan was wonderful to work with. He was an absolute professional. He was kind and gentle to everyone. He would have this ongoing routine with the makeup man, who was Jewish, and Jonathan had been raised Jewish, and so they used all of this Yiddish that, you know, all the dirty words that, that they taught me, which I can't repeat, but they were just, I would go there in the morning, I would be so happy to be driving to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the sun would be just coming up, and I would think to myself, oh my gosh, here I am, an orphan from Norway, going to 20th Century Fox to do a major network television show. How can this possibly be? I am so lucky. And then I'd get on the set, and we'd go into makeup, and there would Jonathan involved. The makeup artist would be just fighting back and forth, but all in fun, you know, and teasing each other. It was such a spectacular time to share with them, and those memories will stay with me forever, because I just giggle every time I think about Jonathan doing that. And Jonathan taught me a lot. He was so gentle and kind with me. He knew that I was relatively a new beginner or a beginner, and so, you know, he would always, you know, be friendly and lovely, and you know, just support everything I did. So it was fun to work with him and on all these shows, and I would watch him. I would study him. I'd never leave the set, because I'd just watch Jonathan and see what he would be up to. And everyone on the show, June and Guy, and they were just, June is 90 years old now, and she is sharp as a tack. You know, when I talk with her, she is like, she just won an award got a special medal from NASA, and they're like only one of a few women who have received it. And she can, she's part of the press corps. She can talk about anything to anyone, and she is, in fact, my husband, who's an elder abuse attorney, loves to sing. And I told June about it, that he's singing with the choir in church, and oh my goodness, you know, this is his newfound love. And she said, oh, Marta, she said, I'm going to give you the name of Gary Green, and you'll have to have Kevin contact him, because he has a group called Legal Voices, the only legal choir in Los Angeles, they call it. And so through June, Kevin has been part of that group for 3 years. And so, I mean, she's just wonderful. And on his 50th birthday, he had always wanted, my husband had always wanted to take the Goodyear blimp. And so I said, oh, I want to surprise him, but who can, of course, June Lockhart. I'm going to call June, and I know she's the person who can arrange it. And I called her, and she goes, of course, but only on one condition. And I said, what is it, June? She goes, you take me. And so we picked her up and drove on the 405 down south. And Kevin said, where are you taking me? Where are you taking me? And June said, it's a surprise. And there was as soon as he saw the Goodyear blimp, he knew. And it was just such a wonderful experience, and she was so kind and thoughtful to be a part of that. So, I guess we'll watch. Oh.
troubles. They're closing in on us.
Negative, Dr. Smith. You are allowing your imagination to run away with you.
There it is again.
Let's get out of here, Dr. Smith. It's getting kind of spooky.
Where are they?
Where's what?
The spookies.
Dr. Smith, there aren't any spookies. It's an expression, something you feel, not see.
I feel it. I feel it.
Let's get out of here.
First of all, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not your sister.
Oh, Judy, this is no time for jokes.
I'm not joking, Will.
Well, then if you're not joking, how do you know my name?
I know all your names. I knew who you were the moment I saw you.
Please, Judy, stop playing games. And if you're not my sister, who are you?
Now, my dear, you've tormented your brother quite long enough.
Will is not my brother, Dr. Smith, and I am not his sister. Try not to be too upset, Will. But your sister Judy was my great-great-great-grandmother.
My sister Judy was...
Of course, I understand the whole thing now, William. You forgot to make allowance for the passage of time. How very exciting to meet a distant relative, my dear. We have so much to talk about. Your great-great-great-grandmother was such a lovely girl, and you look just like her.
Maybe she does, and maybe she does not.
Silence! Cybernetic skeptic. Bury the manners. Say how you do to your niece 5 or 6 times removed.
I'm not sure I want to.
I know how you feel, Will. You're terribly disappointed because I'm not who you thought I was. But we are relatives. Come on. I'm sure you and I have lots of things to talk about.
Great good fortune to find a relative among these lovely people.
She is no relative of yours, Dr. Smith. She may be Will's relative. On the other hand, she may not.
We have no reason to doubt her.
We have reason to doubt everything, Dr. Smith.
Wow, that was quite a costume. Somebody told me once, what is that beer can on your head? I said, only a Budweiser. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Yeah, my goodness. Robert May, Bobby May, you might have met him at one point or another in your travels, but he was he was inside the robot. And he and Jonathan always had, oh my God, they would always battle. They'd always bicker with each other. And Jonathan would roll his eyes. There was one time when well, Bobby used to he loved the robot. I mean, this was a man who had found his meaning in life. I mean, this was something that he loved. He loved the robot so much that he would spend his lunch hour in the robot. He wouldn't even get out. And he would eat, and he was a heavy smoker, so he'd smoke in the robot. And so, one day, you might have heard this from Mark, that Mark locked him in. The top part locks. He locked him in the robot, and he obviously couldn't get out. And so Mark said, "Let's just go have a little bit of lunch. We'll come back a little while." So we came back, and there was smoke, like pouring out of the robot. And Mark is going, "Oh my God, oh my God. Oh, Bobby, are you?" And he unlocked the thing, and Bobby was just smoking a big cigar, just happy as a clam. Huh? What? Yeah? Oh yeah, don't worry about it. They forgot to unlock me. But yeah, those are the things that poor Bobby had to stand when, because, I mean, he had to memorize all the lines, but Dick Tufeld was the one who you know, who actually was the voice of the robot. But Bobby, because he had to, you know, control the lights on the front of the robot when he was talking, had to memorize all of the lines, and he had more lines than anyone on the show, except for Jonathan. And so I really had to hand it to him that he was a real sport about that. But Bobby and another fellow traveled with the robot to Australia, and they went to the I think it was an Australian community center, Aboriginal center, where there were going to be some Aboriginal dancing, and Bobby, as I said, you know, he thought he was the robot, and so they're all sort of walking past him and not paying any attention to him, and he stopped one, and he said, no, stopped one of the dancers and said, "Don't you know who I am?" No, I'm the robot, lost in space. They looked at him like he had two heads. But anyway, Bobby was actually a very gentle soul, and I miss him. He had a difficult life after Lost in Space, and you know, he did many conventions, but all of his memorabilia was burned in a house fire. We had a big fire in the northern part of the San Fernando Valley, and so he lost everything. And I think that was sort of the beginning of the end for him. It was, you know, but his wife continues his legacy, and she goes to the different shows and talks about Bob, and his fans loved him, and he gave everything he had to his fans, as well as Jonathan. Jonathan was amazing. He was such a raconteur. He told the dirtiest jokes. I mean, you know, I would have to look around and say, Jonathan, there are children in the audience. Yeah, but one of his favorite, shall I tell you one of his favorite jokes? Okay. There was a bus, and on the bus were many people, and that bus was in a terrible accident. Everyone died. Everyone died. I mean, the bus rolled over. They're all gone except for one monkey. And then when the police came, and you know, the ambulances and everything, the police went to the monkey and said to the monkey, "Were you on the bus?" The monkey goes, He said, "Well, what were they doing on the bus?" And the monkey goes, "They were smoking dope on the bus." "Well, what else were they doing on the bus?" They were drinking on the bus." "Well, what were you doing on the bus?" Jonathan told it much better. And Jonathan used a few other things that I didn't want to mention, but yeah. So that was typical of Jonathan, and you know, those stories are just gold. And I hope that if you met him, that you had an opportunity to hear him tell some of his other jokes. But you know, it was really quite a group of people here on our show. But this show, you know, I've sort of forgotten it. I don't remember. I have photos out there in the costume. You know, people always say, "Well, what's that from?" I said, "Flight into the Future." But that was fun. It was fun to see it in color. I haven't seen that for a long time. So.
Thank you.
Judy, breakfast is ready.
I'm not hungry.
Judy? Where are you going?
Just for a walk, Mother. Is there any rule against that?
I will not have you taking that tone of voice with me, Judy.
I'm not a child anymore, Mother. I would just like to be alone once in a while without someone always asking me where I'm going.
All right, then. And don't go too far.
So?
With growing pains.
You want me to talk to her again?
No. No, she'll be all right.
She'll get over it in time.
Hello? Well, don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you.
Where did you come from?
You mean originally or just now? Really, if you're going to ask questions, you have to be more specific. Well, you needn't worry. I'm not a monster. Look, I have 5 fingers, 2 arms, 1 head, and I assure you, no webbing between the toes.
You're human?
As human as you are.
Who are you?
Who are you?
I asked first. I'm Judy Robinson. How long have you been watching me?
What's wrong with watching a beautiful girl?
You still haven't told me who you are or where you came from.
My name is Morbus.
How did you get here?
How does anybody get anywhere?
You must have a ship. You could get away from here.
And I'm sure I could. With your help.
What kind of help?
Oh, we can talk about that. There's plenty of time.
Well, if you knew we were here, why didn't you come to our camp?
I had to be sure you were friendly first. Are you friendly?
Of course we are. I'll take you back to the ship. Everyone will want to meet you. Come on.
Your eggs were delightful, madam, considering the fact that they were just eggs.
Mom, Dad, I'd like you to meet Morbus.
How do you do? I'm Morbus of Lyra.
How do you do? I'm John Robinson.
He's been hiding out in the rocks watching us until he was sure we'd be friendly. Dr. Smith, meet our new friend.
Friend? Dr. Smith. Have we met before?
No. I'm sure we haven't. I'm sure we haven't. Excuse me, I have work to do. Busy.
Hello.
The days are all too short for the good that must be done. Busy.
Well, one more family event. Again, the man who played Morbius was a wonderful actor and another great character actor in Hollywood. It was sort of interesting to have a little bit of a flirtation with someone other than Don West in this. I sort of felt that was the reason why they put me there. Guy Williams was one of the most interesting people that you would ever want to meet. He was so he had so many different interests. He was I would say a musicologist. I mean, he knew everything about different styles of music, especially classical music. Classical music was always coming out of his trailer. We all had trailers, and of course June and Guy had the best trailer because they were the stars of the show. Jonathan's trailer was just a little bit smaller than June and Guy's, which he didn't like, but you know, he was an afterthought after all. And then Mark, the rest of us just had these funny little, they looked like small little airstreams, but they were not nearly as nice. And so we just painted them inside, and we plastered pictures and photos and all of that in our trailers. But Guy, going back to Guy, he taught me, he and June actually taught me how to play Scrabble. They were killer Scrabble players. And like, you know, all the words without the Q, without the U, and how to, you know, get the most points out of, scoring on the Scrabble board. And so that was sort of my connection with them, because they were older and they were playing my parents and they had been stars, and I was just sort of beginning. So just in the game playing and listening to them talking about various things, and June as well. June and Guy were very close. They really recognized in each other sort of a soulmate of sorts, because they had so much in common. And they were both married and were true to their spouses, but you know, you could see that they had an affection for each other, as Mark and I did. You know, we were both married as well, and although my marriage was really terrible, but he was on his first of, what, 3 marriages or something. But, and he will admit that. And he always says, and he tells people that we kissed. No, we didn't. Oh, look at that, I get so excited. No, we didn't. But of course, there's, you know, when you're together more than you are at home with your spouse, you know, you do develop a relationship, you develop an affection, and you know, you're working so closely and so many long hours. You're there from 6 in the morning until 9 in the evening, and except well, on Friday usually later, because you have to have 8 hours or that between leaving work and coming back. So those were the rules. But Friday they didn't apply, so you worked really late on Fridays. And even though you know, I didn't have a lot to do in many of the shows, they wanted me there just in case. So, but Mark and I would go to we'd go to lunch, and there was a place that had bags and bags of peanuts. And so Mark one time brought a whole bag of peanuts, and he went up on the different rafters, you know, above the set. And he started throwing peanuts at people, you know. And he'd hide and throw another one. And he was a trickster. And there were tunnels under the studio, probably from World War II or World War I, no, World War II. And I would go with Angela and Bill under those tunnels. And once in a while, there would be like a manhole that you could open up, and you'd be in different areas of the studio lot outside. And one time, I popped my head up, and there I was in the middle of Peyton Place. Oh my, sorry. But I had dated Ryan O'Neal, so that was appropriate, I think. But it was an exciting time at the studio. I haven't done a major motion picture in a while, and so I haven't been on. Well, actually, I was at the studio watching the Lost in Space Blu-ray and the table read there. But it felt like home when I arrived. It was really nostalgic for me to be there. But I have done a show called Ageless, which is a pilot that's, they've just finished the music on it, so we'll see. It's sort of the Golden Girls of this era. So we'll see, you know, showbiz, you never know. You just do it and then you go on to something else. But I never thought that Lost in Space would, you know, when you're working on a show, you never think that, oh, you know, that's going to be, in 50 years, it's still going to be popular. And it's a wonderful, wonderful surprise. And I think the reason that Lost in Space is still so very loved by people is that, well, there's a good story by a journalist who was comparing Lost in Space and Star Trek, and he was asked the question, which show do you like better? And he said, well, you know, when I think about it, Lost in Space. And he said, because there was like, there's one show that really represents what I think Lost in Space is about, and that was the show between where Guy becomes a duplicate, or he actually is not a duplicate, but he wears a helmet that an alien has put on his head, and he becomes this terrible human being, and he is going to throw Will off the edge of a cliff because he's told he's been given these instructions by this alien through the helmet. And Will says, Dad, can I just say one thing before you do that? And okay. And Will says, I love you. Makes me want to cry. And he takes off, throws the helmet down, and he hugs Will. And that's the essence of the show. And that's why it remains. That's why it stays so popular. That's why people still hold it in their hearts, because it is about family. You don't see that much anymore on television. You don't see that kind of love and that kind of, that kind of connectedness that the show is really about. I mean, in the end, we go through all of these different things about, different monsters and different, difficulties, and we're saved by will. But it really turns out that we are about how families take care of each other. How, it really was Space Family Robinson originally. And it really is about being on an island and how you survive by your by your wits but mainly by how you work together. And and children need to know that. Children need to see that, and they need to feel that. And I meet so many people at conventions that say, I was, I had difficulties in my life. I had difficulties in my family, and but I was able to watch Lost in Space, and Guy Williams became, the father, the surrogate father that I never had, or and you became my sister or my girlfriend, so it's about the heart, and I think that's why Lost in Space is still so popular, and even now amongst a new generation, it's crossing the board of different eras.
Would you like to do one more slide, or would you prefer to take some
Well, I'll
audience
take some questions. That would be great, if there are any. Yes.
What other movie stars have you met, and singers or whoever?
Movie stars that I've met?
Yeah, and singers, people popular from that era.
Oh, from that era? Well, after, of course I worked with, Richard Chamberlain, and I was under contract to Jack Lemmon, Richard Klein, and Blake Edwards. They had their own company. Lee Remick. These are people from a very long time ago. But, of course, all the people on the show. And I did many shows prior to this. I did the first two-parter on television. It was about teenage pregnancy, and about abortion, and about the difficulties that occurred when teenagers do get pregnant. And that was the time when I was really meeting people who were stars. I probably could, if I really thought about it, could name a lot of them, but I find that the ones that are the people that are the most gracious are the ones that have been in the business a long time, and who have a lot of experience, and they realize the ethereal, or the non-lasting quality of being in the business. You can be replaced anytime. And there are a lot of young people that, my granddaughter is a wonderful old soul person, and she's just beginning to be in the business. She was on the first Twitter reality show of all things, and she brought it all together. She talks about various people her age that are just horrible. They just, bring me this and bring me that, and carry me here and carry me there, and the vulgarity that they, how they express themselves. And in fact, we were watching the Golden Globes, and afterwards she looked at me and she said, "That was really vulgar." And she's not uptight. She's 21, and she's a filmmaker. She's going to school, a film school, but I just loved that about her. I love that about her, and she doesn't take anything for granted. She knows that it's hard work, and that it's not lasting. But it can be. It can be if you really are honest and authentic and appreciative.
We have time for a couple more questions. Yes, sir.
Could you talk a little bit more about Angela Cartwright and Billy Mummy, what they were like behind the scenes?
Let me repeat that for the filming. The question is, what was it like to work with Angela Cartwright and Billy Mummy and some of the other cast members?
Well, they were, at that time, I felt they were much younger than I. But, now we're all buds. The older you get, the closer those years become. And, they were really wonderful. They didn't have parents who were stage parents. They didn't have stage moms. And although the mothers did sit on other sides, sides of the stage set. So, but they didn't battle. They were very. The kids were very uncomplicated. They'd come to work. Angela had been working for so many years, and Bill as well. In fact, I worked with Bill on an Alfred Hitchcock Presents, where Alfred Hitchcock directed it. And he was just a little kid at the time. He was so cute. And I was playing the Jiffy Snack Girl. I think I was 16 when I did that. And they were just normal kids, except that they were working. And I went to a place called Hollywood Professional School, where we had the Romero brothers. They would come when they were from Spain, and we would have auditorium calls, and so all these kids were, just kids, except that we were in show business, and we were acting, and I mean, we had Mouseketeers at our school, and it was quite something. But yeah, they were good kids, and Angela, I remember her mother, she was beginning to get a little chubby, because that's what you do when you're, preteen, and she'd always have hot fudge sundaes every afternoon, and her mother would catch her. No, don't do that. But so just normal kids, normal.
So I was reading online that there's a real possibility of a reboot of the Lost in Space TV show coming up. In fact, it's already being worked on with a new cast, and kind of in the spirit of the reboot of the Star Trek movies. So that's very interesting how, as Marta pointed out, this legacy continues. The dynamics of the show were such that people could really connect with it. Any last couple of questions before Marta goes up front to visit with those who would like to visit with her? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I was wondering, the Lost in Space movies that they made, it didn't really have the same feel as the show. Did the original cast have any input on that movie?
Okay, the question is, the Lost in Space remake, the motion picture, which was made in the 90s, Marta, about 97?
Well,
and the question is, why did it not seem to have the chemistry of the show or the success of the show?
When I spoke with the writer, when they asked me to do, a cameo in it, he said, "Oh, you're going to love it. We've made it dark." And I thought, I don't think that's a good idea. And this is the same man who wrote A Beautiful Mind, Akiva Goldsman. And I didn't particularly like the movie. I thought the movie wasn't true to what Lost in Space was. It didn't have, everybody was neurotic and fighting, and as much as I love Gary Oldman, I don't, well, as Jonathan said, no one can play Dr. Smith except myself and me, he said. And I didn't like the way I didn't like the new spaceship. I love this. I mean, how beautiful, how much more beautiful can that be? And so true to I guess, to aeronautics, so I've been told. But the new series is, pretty sure is going to be done. Kevin Burns is very much involved in it, and Legendary Pictures is doing it, probably Netflix. I would love to do a part in that. I mean, I played in a movie where I played the leader of my people. It was Roger Corman's film. God, I forgot the name. Battle Beyond, thank you, Battle Beyond the Stars. Oops. I could do that. I mean, I would love to be a part of it. From what I understand, it's going to be a little different than just one family going out. It's going to be, it sounds very interesting. And so I'm hoping that it will work, and I'm hoping that they'll give me something to do on it. Write those, oh, no, Facebook. I'm on Facebook now. I mean, I'm like lost in Facebook, but I'm working on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for us to have with us this weekend a legendary TV star, Marta Kristen. Marta, thank you for coming all the way to Del Rio.
Well, thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Please come by Marta's table if you haven't already. She's got some wonderful memorabilia from her career, and you'll want to get some of that as a keepsake. And to also visit with Marta further. So we're going to take a break now, and then Captain Robert Salas will tell us the amazing story of the day that a fleet of UFOs essentially shut down a portion of our country's nuclear defense capabilities. So you won't want to miss that in 15 minutes.
Thank you so much.
After David Bowles. Sorry, we've got Dr. David Bowles next with the Border X-Files, and then Captain Salas. My mistake, David, sorry.
All right,